When we were looking for ways to improve our products, there was a few things that we needed to do. One, we wanted to make it stronger, and the other one, we wanted to make a smaller hole to stop things like pines and that getting through, because there was too much maintenance involved with a 3.5mm hole. Everybody knows the 3.5mm hole is a good filter, but it does let to things like pines and very fine debris. So what we ended up doing was finding a product. Once we reduced the holes down to less than 2mm in size, and this is a 1.6mm aperture, once we did that, we found that the water wanted to go over the top. So what we had to do was direct the water to go through the mesh. Let's go and have a look how we did that. You can see this okay. I think this is a good enough explanation of how they work, but this is the 3.5mm hole that everybody relies on and uses within the industry. I'm just going to turn the tap on slowly, and you'll see that on the angle that it is, it lets the water through fairly well. Even when it gets heavier, it's a big enough hole to make sure that the water goes through. Then when we started to get into smaller ones, when you get that smaller hole, we kept finding that the water wanted to run over the top. And in general terms, if you held it on its side, most of the time it's going to run over the top. That would be a normal hole of 1.6. Then what we did was we developed it so we put in a directional hole, and that directional hole can only go one way. And I can show you if you go the wrong way, what happens is the water wants to go straight over the top. And what we then learned is that if we could get this directional hole with a nice little sitting up, a rib that's set up, we can turn it around the other way. You can now see that the water goes through. It clings on underneath a little bit, but it does go through, and it doesn't matter. That's more water than you'll ever get on a roof. Probably a bit hot there, but more water than you'll ever get on a roof. But that's going through. But then what we found, when you were getting a light amount of water, what we did find was that the water wanted to cling on even more. So that we designed the product with what we call a swage or a trough, and that swage or trough just ensures that anything that does want to cling on for a long time will then make sure it goes through. So that trough is just a nice little addition to the product to make sure that it's going to hold on to all the water. It'll fill up, it gets deep enough and heavy enough that the water then just flows away. It is purposely designed so that we can make sure we can keep out the finest of debris, but still make sure that the water goes through.